All right, let's talk about something we do dozens, maybe even hundreds of times a day. You type a web address into your browser, you hit enter, and poof, a website appears. It feels like magic, right? Well, it's not. It's actually an incredible high-speed journey. Today, we're going to pull back that curtain and see exactly what happens in those few milliseconds. I mean, really, have you ever just stopped and thought about it? We take this whole thing completely for granted, but in the actual blink of an eye, this incredibly complex conversation is happening all across the globe. We're going to trace that entire conversation from your keyboard all the way to a server somewhere out there and back again. So, at its absolute core, you can boil the whole process down to these 3 simple steps. Your browser asks for something, a server finds that thing and gives it back, and then your browser puts it all together so you can see it. Think of this as our basic roadmap for the journey we're about to take. And here's our game plan. First, we'll meet the 2 main characters in this story. Then, we'll figure out how they find each other. After that, we'll learn the language they speak. And finally, we'll watch as your web page gets built right from scratch. Okay, first step, let's meet our 2 main players, the client and the server. You know, getting their relationship is pretty much the foundation for everything else that happens on the web. So the client, that's you. Well, kind of. More specifically, it's your device, your laptop, your phone, and whatever browser you're using, like Chrome or Safari. This is ground zero. It's where the whole journey begins with your click. And on the other end of the line, we have the server. Now, you can think of a server as this powerful, specialized computer that's just on 24/7. Its whole purpose in life is to store all the code, the images, the text, everything a website is made of, and just wait for a client to ask for it. Its job is to serve that info. So this whole relationship really just comes down to a simple back and forth. The client asks, "Hey, can I see this website?" And the server responds, "You got it. Here's all the code you need." It's this simple but really powerful conversation that makes the entire web work. Okay, so your client needs to talk to a server. Makes sense. But how does it know which server to talk to? I mean, there are literally millions of them out there. That's the next big puzzle we need to solve. Here's the first thing you have to get your head around. Those easy-to-remember names we use, like github.com, those are just convenient nicknames for us humans. The internet itself doesn't use names, it uses numbers. Every single server connected to the internet has a unique numerical address called an IP address. So, how do we get from the name that we can remember to the number that the computers need? Well, that is the job of the DNS, the Domain Name System. And it is, quite literally, the internet's giant phone book. Its one and only job is to look up the name you typed and find the correct IP address that goes with it. This whole process is called a DNS lookup, and it happens unbelievably fast. Your browser basically shouts out, "Hey, I need the number for github.com." That request then goes out to a DNS server, which looks it up in its massive address book and shoots back the right IP address. And just like that, your browser has the number it needs to make the call. All right, we've got the address, we know who to talk to. Now the question is, what do we say? Turns out there are very specific rules and languages that clients and servers have to use to make sure nothing gets lost in translation. So the foundation for all this communication is a set of rules called TCP/IP. Think of it like the internet's super reliable postal service. Before any information is even sent, TCP makes sure there's a solid connection, like a digital handshake. Then, IP handles the addressing, and TCP makes sure every single piece of the message arrives safely, in the right order, with nothing missing. And TCP is, well, it's a bit of a perfectionist. It takes all the website data, chops it up into these little numbered pieces called packets, sends them off, and then checks on the other side to make sure every single one arrives safe and sound. If a packet gets lost or messed up along the way, TCP just asks for it again. It's what makes the internet reliable. So if TCP/IP is the delivery service, HTTP is the actual language written on the letter inside the envelope. It's the specific protocol for asking for web stuff. It sits right on top of TCP/IP, and it defines the exact commands a browser uses to ask for things and a server uses to answer. An HTTP request is actually pretty straightforward. This is basically your browser saying, "Hey, get me the page you have at the /about address, and let's use version 1.1 of the HTTP language to do it." It's just a clear, direct command. And if the server has what you asked for, it sends a response back that starts with a status code.
Now, you've probably seen the infamous 404 not found error, right? Well, the one we're hoping to see is 200 OK. That just means, yep, I got your request, everything's good, and here comes the data you wanted. And right after that line, you'd get all the code for the web page itself.
And we did it. The server sent the code all the way back to our browser. But hold on, we're not done yet. Your browser now has a big pile of code, not a website. So now we get to the final and most visual step, actually building the page. Now, this is a really important point. The server doesn't send a finished picture of the website. It sends the raw materials, a set of instructions. Your browser's job is to act like a construction crew, reading those instructions and building the final website right there on your screen. And these instructions, they come in 3 main languages. You've got HTML, which is like the blueprints. It defines the structure, the walls, the rooms. Then there's CSS, which is all the interior design, the paint colors, the furniture, the layout. And finally, you have JavaScript. That's the electricity and the plumbing, all the interactive stuff that actually makes the page come to life. So your browser gets to work, it reads the HTML to get the structure, it applies all the CSS styles to make it look good, and then it runs the JavaScript to make it do cool things. It puts all those pieces together in a process called rendering, and that's what creates the final interactive web page you see. And there you have it. From that first client request to the DNS lookup to the TCP/IP connection speaking HTTP, and all the way to the final rendering of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, this whole amazing, complex journey happens almost instantly every single time you go online. It's this incredible, invisible architecture that we depend on every single day. So, the next time you click a link and you see that little loading spinner doing its thing, you'll know it's not just waiting. It's a worldwide conversation happening in milliseconds, just for you. Now that you know the journey, what part of our digital world are you going to look at differently? Thanks for joining me.